Hey, it's Nikki Haverstock. This is RuPaul's Drag Race, Season 13, Episode 14. Season 13, Episode 14, Gettin' Lucky. So it is your typical Gosh, I've got kind of a funny angle on here, but I'm not going to record because I am just getting burned out doing these recaps. If it wasn't for the dozen or so of you that watch every time and comment, I'm doing it for you. If you watch every time, and don't comment, I'm also doing it for you as well. But it's not really gaining the audience, and I'm just like, especially for this episode, specifically because spoiler alert, no one goes home. And I kind of knew no one was going to go home. And so it just kind of felt like a filler episode. And then, all of the queens are going on about how no one should be criticizing any of the queens. And it's like, so I'm not allowed to have an opinion on the show. So now I have to just watch and just love every decision. And it's like, no, I don't agree with some of the decisions. I don't wish anyone harm. I don't think anyone is a bad drag queen, but I think there were other drag queens that should have made it into the final four. There you go. So anyway, we get a quick, so this is a very short recap because there's just not a lot to say. We're going to have the reunion next week. And then the finale. It's going to be 4 months, which is awesome. I love Drag Race, but it feels like we've just had non-stop Drag Race for our entire lives. This whole pandemic. It adds to this whole weird pandemic. Everything's happening, and I enjoy it. But from a recapping point of view, there's not a lot to say. So Rosé and Milk have never lip-synced. Milk. Rosé and Got Mick and have never lip-synced. Simone's won 4, but has lip-synced. Rosé's 3 times never lip synced, Got Mixed won 2 times, never lip synced, and then Candy's won once. So they're all gonna, if they win, they're all gonna put their money back into their drag, except Candy, who wants to buy a boat. And I think lines like that are exactly why they have kept her. They think that she's this really fascinating person. I don't dislike Candy. I do like Candy. Just to be clear. Just don't quite understand the judging on all of this. So we get our typical inside Drag Race. Who are you? How did your thing evolve? It's all very fascinating. Then they perform to Got Lucky. I have some auditory processing things where it's really difficult for me. It's why I struggle so much with a foreign language. I just can't hear sounds really well. I'm not deaf. I've had my hearing tested a bunch of times. I can hear the sounds, but it's like they're all fuzzy. And so it's kind of like if they did the eye test and they said, is there a letter there? I could say, yeah, it's a letter. Can't tell you what it is, but it's a letter. That's kind of like me with sound tests. I can hear that they're speaking, but I can't understand them. And so this video, I couldn't understand what anyone was saying. I had the captions turned on and I just read it, but I couldn't understand a word they were saying. It sounded like the music was really loud and they were all mumbling, but it's probably just my age. And I've always had this auditory thing. When I took when I took French in junior high, I couldn't understand a word anyone was saying. I couldn't replicate it because I couldn't hear it clearly. All of that. So anyway, that's my own thing. But if you also felt like this particular song was even harder to understand, let me know, because I was like watching going, I can't evaluate the raps because I couldn't hear a word anyone was saying. Anyone was saying. I could hear it a little bit when they had the captions going and I could like line up the sounds with the words. But if you had just told me to write down what they were saying, I would have gotten like 2 words. Anyway, so we go through all that and they're all going to stay. And so now we're doing the team, and they've done this for a while. I feel like it's been a while since we've had top 3. I absolutely remember Bianca, Adore Delano, and Courtney Act as being a top 3. But I can't, it kind of gets fuzzy. It's been a lot of seasons. So it all gets a little fuzzy. It would have been one of those things where we joked about how not doing a double save would have been more shocking than doing a double save. It's kind of the same thing. Having 3 in the finale would have been more shocking. But I'm kind of glad they did it because I feel like if they had gotten rid of someone, I felt like it would have been Simone. So I'm glad they kept the top 4 because their judging's been a little odd the whole season. So I'm glad they have a top 4. My assumption is for the winner is that I really think that they look and they see who people are really reacting to and they go off of that. And so I do think that for the finale, I think it's very unlikely, given the public's reaction to Candy, that Candy would win. And that's just the truth of the matter. I think it's really likely. I think Simone definitely deserves it, but I think given her track history, she's got to really do, she does amazing every time, but I think she's got to do even so much more amazing. I think there's a strong choice for Gottmik as the first trans contestant, who's amazing, so I'm not saying it would be just because she's trans, but that overall, they look at who you are, what you represent, your journey, they also look a lot at where they think the trajectory. This is the same thing that comes up in Project Runway, which is a lot of times they picked designers who they think are going to be the most on trend or the most breakout. So I think that that's, in light of how much Gottmik has grown and like gained new skills, I think that would be an argument. Rosé has the best track record, 4 wins, never lip synced, and has a great story arc from losing the first lip sync. You know, you can go back and watch that video, but I felt like it was a silly way to judge because I feel like the lip sync is like the cherry on top, but not the whole performance. Drag is so much more than just a single lip sync. But anyway, that story arc is amazing. Rosé is incredibly strong across the board. And then, like I said, I don't think they'll give it to Candy just because of how they've done judging in the past. I'm trying to think of a drag queen that they crowned that was really strongly contentious in the public since they've started doing finales where the decision is left open until the end as opposed to like pre-filmed, which is what they did in the early seasons. I think in the early seasons. And then later on they would film multiple endings and then sometimes they do a live finale. Anyway, but Candy, they find her very funny. She is funny. They find her a strong brand, a strong point of view. There's not been a lot of queens in that track, in that vein of, you know, like we have like performance funny, like a Jinx and a, you know, but anyway, my point being that there is an argument for Candy. They're all very strong. They're all stars. They're all probably going to go on. Of course, I think kind of at this point, anyone who makes it onto RuPaul's Drag Race is in a really strong position. So that's kind of my argument for each one. If I was betting, I would go with Rosé. Just because of the track record combined with being able to do it all. My bet would be, gosh, it's just so hard to say. Oh, and I think Bob the Drag Queen, Kimchi, and who's the third one? Was also a 3-person finale. Anyway, all of you experts tell me. I don't have the world's best memory, so there you go. I don't know. I'm having a hard time saying who I would bet, and I'm having a harder time even saying who I want because they're all so strong in their different ways that it's really hard for me to say. My bet would be that Candy is not going to get it. I would say that the odds on that, if I was going to do an odd maker, I would say that that's like a 10% chance and then an even 30 split between the other 3 because they all have really strong, and I think either one of them can take it. That is just that is me as a betting person. In terms of who I want, this is the season kind of like, oh, I guess last season was 3 too, huh? Well, then I totally, maybe I should give up on that idea that it's unusual to have 3 because it seems like they actually do it quite a bit. But anyway, but my point being, it's a lot like last season where I go, gosh, any one of the 3 is so strong, there's a strong point of view that I could see them winning. And that's kind of how I feel between those 3. So that's just my point of view. I will talk to you later. Bye.